right? Now I'm going to speak to a few things that are different in church culture. We don't have time to discuss them now, but maybe later. So first off, the way they did this, I didn't see or hear anyone that got divorced from this method. Divorce just didn't really happen in the church. There was many widows that came to God who were previously divorced before they were Christian, but it didn't really happen in the church, or at least I didn't hear about it. So that was cool. Alcohol. So this is something that's inherently not bad in itself. So alcohol is not bad, but it's the abuse of it that is bad. And some of us refrain from drinking here. Some of us have a little. Maybe some of us have problems with it here. But there, it was interesting. They just refrained from it altogether. And what was cool about that was that because they refrained from alcohol, nobody struggled with alcohol. Like, oh man, like, they're geniuses. Like, no one's gonna struggle with alcohol if you don't drink. Amazing. But, you know, it works. Like, maybe it might be a little bit, you know, rules or whatnot, and it might seem a little bit strict to people outside of the church, but man, like, can you have fun without alcohol? Hopefully, you know. Hopefully if you're a Christian, you don't need alcohol like everyone else in the world needs to have fun, right? Music. This is just an observation, but for me, I only listened to, I would say, worship music when I was worshiping God. So usually on Sunday services, there's strict time set aside to worship God, but they listen to worship music 90% of the time. It wasn't that they didn't like just different types of music. It was just, I don't know, it was their decision that they would mostly listen to worship music. But what I found was, because you were listening to worship music, you found yourself actually worshiping more. And that was a big thing, you know, like, you're just worshiping God, like, not just for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes at Center Street on Sunday, but you're worshiping God, like, throughout the day. Like if you're not talking with someone, man, you just find yourself worshiping Him, and it's so much different. And that got me to thinking that, like, maybe it is good to, you know, to have worship just on, and not just like when you're worshiping. So maybe some of you can relate to me in that sense. This is a big one. Man, they really looked down on wasting time. I guess it had to do with their dedication, but they were really hard, specifically on each other. So one guy, he had a problem with computer games. He'd play it for 2-3 hours at a time. I don't know if there's anyone here that does that. Maybe there is. But 2-3 hours at a time, computer games, or Netflix, binge watching Netflix, you know, like, and that wasn't like a part of their lives. They knew it was wrong. Like, I don't even think we know that that's wrong, that these things are idols. Like, do we even know that? Like, that watching like 4 or 5 hours of Netflix in a row is wrong? That we have limited time on here on earth to serve God, and we should be using that for His time? Like, maybe one movie, not 3 in a row, you know, and maybe watch it with people, not alone, you know, these sorts of things. So they really look down on it, and you know, and I'm as guilty as anyone for this, but it was a big difference. They didn't waste time like we do. We wonder why we're so busy with our lives. It's because we're wasting time, and man, at the end of my day, I didn't have internet on my phone because, I don't know, it was a mix-up with my SIM card, but I couldn't believe the stuff on Facebook and social media. Like, I couldn't believe the stuff that everyone in the world and everyone in my friend group on Facebook and even people like in the church were just sort of like wasting their time on and debating on. Like sure, there's some like uplifting articles and you know, like good posts, if you will, but like arguing about politics or the whole election and like, you know, bashing different parties and like I don't know, like people this must sound harsh, but like how many people changed their profile picture to have like Paris when the attacks happened? Like so many people changed their picture, but did like people actually care? Was everyone who changed their profile picture actually praying? Did they actually care? Were you caring about the people persecuted in Syria before these attacks happened? Because not that many people died compared to that many that died in the same war, if you will, that's been going on for over a year. Like, and so there's just so much of this time that I felt just wasted on social media, and there, you know, the best part of the day was like, well, not the best part, but like it was good, like contacting people and FaceTiming people at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, when I fired on my social media and saw the stuff that Canadians were posting, like something wasn't right, and yeah. I was going to share a story from the daughter I was staying with, or the pastor's daughter I was staying with, and we were just walking home from the bus one day, and she's basically the only person in her school. She has no Christian friends, so she has no friends, really. People make fun of her for believing in God. And she shares a story where her classmates joke, and the jokes are inappropriate. They're sexual, they put other people down. There's stuff that we know is wrong, but they're funny, okay? Like, they're funny. You laugh at a funny joke, if you will. Like, you can't help it. I was guilty. I did this every single day at the workplace. All the jokes were inappropriate, and I would laugh. Like, and she said this, the simplest thing. She was like, man, you just gotta try to not laugh at these jokes. If you know they're wrong, just try not to laugh at them. Just try to let them be. And then she's like, eventually I didn't find them funny anymore. Like, I didn't laugh at these things that I knew I shouldn't be laughing at. And I was like, wow, like I just got like my whole last 6 years working, I just got told a lesson on, like how to serve God in the workplace. I was just to not laugh at inappropriate jokes by a 14-year-old. It was nuts. And Godspeed. So I earlier mentioned they prayed for 3 years. God doesn't work fast. This is something I realized. One of the fruits of the Spirit is patience. God created patience. He works slowly, not for His sake, but for ours. Okay, like He works slowly so that we can be patient in Him, so that we can develop that quality, so that we can trust in Him in the things that we do, so it would take a long time for someone to come to Christ, maybe a year, maybe 2. It wasn't like there was off the charts number of people that were saved while I was there, but it was steady. It was an ongoing process. People were being saved as they invested years and years into them, if that's what it took. But it started with a simple invite, and then they came, and then they built a relationship, and so on and so on. Another cool point was hearing from God. So this is maybe the first time, I would occasionally hear from God in terms of having a conviction, knowing what I was supposed to do. I don't get an audible message. I don't know, maybe some of you do, maybe don't, maybe get a dream. But for me, I get convictions where I know something I have to do or don't have to do. But what I started to find there, as I was serving God more and these distractions were removed from my life, that God would actually tell me what to do, that He would place much more things on my heart. And for example, they would surprise me when I was going to speak. They would just tell me, oh, you're speaking tonight. Oh, great. I would have been nice to been preparing for a week to speak, And then I just asked the Lord, what do you want me to speak on? And then He would give me something right away. I didn't have to prepare that much. I had enough time. He always gave me enough time to do what I needed to do. So as you remove these distractions from your life, you start to hear God more. Your relationship becomes closer. This next slide is not going to be popular. The male and female roles in the church were much, much different. And I just thought I'd mention it. it's more of an observation, not like a this is right or this is wrong. But it's a traditional kind of family structure. The man goes to work. The man is the spiritual head of the household. The man makes the large family decisions. The woman takes care of the family. She cooks, she cleans, that sort of thing. And everyone kind of understood this model. It wasn't like it needed to be preached about or talked about. It was understood. And what was really cool about this was that it seemed to work. Families seemed to be close with God and with each other. The children seemed to be close with their parents in this model. And it wasn't like the guy just sat and watched his wife work. No, like if she needed, there's a stack of dishes. Well, the husband would go offer help with the dishes. And one of two things would happen. Either the wife would say, no, like I want to bless you. Like I'm going to serve you tonight, and I'm going to do the dishes. And that's just an act of love from the wife to the husband, or the other way around. She says, oh yes, absolutely. And then it's just an act of love from the husband to the wife. And it was just something special and beautiful in the way that interaction went. It's about serving and loving one another, not about this is your responsibility, this is your chore. Like people, they knew their roles. And the craziest thing about that was that sometimes the women had to work too, because they can't afford. So the women are doing all that and then some. So like kudos to all the women there, like working so hard. But there was just something really cool and special about the family structure that it was different, and nobody was fighting about who was supposed to make the decisions or provide for the family and that sort of thing. So there's many things shared in society there. Many of the same problems that we experience today. Alcohol is a major one. In some cases, it's cheaper than water. Okay, so you can see why alcohol is a problem if it's cheaper to buy water. I don't know how that makes sense, because you need water to make alcohol, and you use up more water in the process, but somehow it's cheaper. Okay, so alcohol is a problem. Drugs are a problem. And it's not like marijuana. It's like their medicine is fairly cheap, so they end up mixing these medicines together to create this fairly strong medication that ends up killing them in a year or two. And these people are dying off these drugs that they're having, and they have to get treatment for these drugs that they're having because they're making these decisions and just on these drugs that are killing them. Sex is the same issue that it is here. Everybody's having sex. Porn is the same issue. You believe it or not, everyone in Ukraine has internet. They place a lot of status. That's maybe the bottom one, but they place a lot of status on having a phone. So they will maybe not go without food in order to have the latest iPhone. It seemed really strange to me, but that was sort of a symbol of your status, was what level of iPhone you had. And so everyone had the internet, it was dirt cheap, and you could access porn, so it was a problem as well. Money is not as big of a problem because, frankly, they don't have it, but the desire for the money was still there. Everyone still wanted money. So I would say it's a much greater problem in Calgary, being one of the richest cities in the world, but yeah, there's still a problem there. And same thing with being accepted, loneliness, status, many shared problems. So my last topic for the night would be about money, and this is the second big one. First one was dedication, and the second one is money. So the average wage there is about $150 a month, Canadian or American or whatever. But by our standards, their cost of living is about 3 times less. So you kind of have to multiply that by 3 to be about $450 a month in Calgary. Now, think about it. If you made $450 a month in Calgary, how would you live? How would you pay your rent? How would you pay your car? The answer is you couldn't do any of these things. You just couldn't. People live with their families because they can't afford rent. They make $150 a month, but their rent's $100. That math doesn't work out. How are you going to eat? Kind of thing. So they live with their family. They don't have cars, most of them. because you can't afford it, right? They don't really eat out because it's too expensive. It's still 2 or 3 times as much as it is to buy in the grocery store. You don't buy new clothes. It just doesn't happen. They share their clothes. You know, they accept the help of others. They accept the help of Canadians when we provide for them, and when people donated money through me so I could provide food to them. Like, they were extremely grateful. And they share things. They share everything. And on top of that, they're faithful with their money. So even though they might have only had the equivalent of 15 Canadian dollars a month, they were still tithing. They still gave 10% to the Lord right at the top. It didn't matter that they didn't have anything, or that money, it couldn't do a whole lot, It could barely, like, the pastor didn't even have a salary there for 3 years. They just decided when I was there to pay the pastor for 3 years. But they're still faithful with that. And so I compare that to, it's just as a simple example, if we were to live by the same standards in Canada. And so $3,000 a month gross, that's about $36K annually. This is very small. Some of us make 3, 4, 5 times that. But a simple example, about a third goes to the government. And if you're only to spend the same amount that they do living and having fun and everything that they do, you would spend $405 a month. Okay? Now, that would mean you would have almost $1,600 remaining for something. Okay? If you lived the same way, you would have $1,600 for something. And then the question is, what do we do with it? If this is God's money, what do we do with it? So for some of you, this number, if it was the same equation, this number would be thousands and thousands and thousands if we were living the same way. And are we honoring, is it going to God's purposes? How are we spending our money? Are we even tithing? The simplest thing, when we in Calgarians, some of the richest people in the whole world, are we even giving 10%? These people who have nothing are giving 10%. Like, our equation for most of us probably looks nothing like this. I know mine didn't. I think our house is serving God, but I know it didn't look quite like that. So the question for the next little bit is, how do you think you could cut your own expenses and serve God more with the money that you have?